Hey guys, this is God of Politics, and welcome back to a brand new video. But before we get started with this video, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord that is linked down in the description. The mock-up elections are today, so if you have not voted yet, please do that. Time is running out, so make sure you do that. But in today's video, what I'm going to be doing is the best case scenario for Donald Trump in the 2020 election. I've done a couple of videos of these before, but now it is an updated one showing some different results than what you might have seen before. So I'm just going to be going through each of the states and seeing how I think they would go in a best case scenario for Donald Trump. So obviously starting with the safe states for Donald Trump, you'd have Montana, Idaho. You'd also have Wyoming, Utah, North Dakota, South Dakota, all Nebraska except for the 2nd District, Alaska, Kansas, Oklahoma, Arizona, Arkansas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, South Carolina, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, Missouri, and Iowa. Iowa went by about 9 in 2016. I think it could eke itself into the safe margins. That's 100, actually, as well as Maine second. So that's 132 safe electoral votes for Donald Trump. And then for Joe Biden, I do believe he would get Washington, California, Hawaii, as well as Illinois, New York, Vermont, Massachusetts, Connecticut, Rhode Island, New Jersey, Delaware, Maryland, D.C. You could argue, New Jersey, Rhode Island, Connecticut could get under the 10-point margin. They went by about 14, and Rhode Island went by about 16. Connecticut and New Jersey went by about 14. Rhode Island went by 16. They could go down to below 10, but it would take a lot. It would take a big trend, basically, and I'm not sure if that would actually happen. So as for the safe electoral votes, Joe Biden has 175 safe electoral votes. Actually has 176, along with Maine's 1st District, 176 safe electoral votes, to Donald Trump's 132 safe electoral votes. As for the likely states, first, for Donald Trump, I do believe Texas would be a likely state. It's a state that is trending blue, but it went by about 9 in 2016. I don't think it would go up into the safe margin, but I do believe that it can stay in the likely margin. Georgia is also another state that's trending blue, but it went by about 5.5 in 2016, and some polls are showing it could go by around similar margin. Well, I don't think this is going to happen in the real scenario. In a best case scenario, it could go by likely margin, along with North Carolina. Actually only went by 3.5 to Donald Trump in 2016, and if you look at the rural areas, Donald Trump does have some room to gain in the rural areas that could propel him to a likely margin victory, as well as Ohio, a state that he won by a likely margin last time. I don't think it would go into the safe margin, but it would be very close. Some of the polls have shown it to be quite close now, while they did underestimate Donald Trump in 2016, and even if that happens again, I do believe it's going to be hard for him to get into a safe margin, but I do believe he can easily get it into a likely margin. So that's all the safe, or likely Republican states. 87 electoral votes worth. That is 219 overall electoral votes for Donald Trump. And then for Joe Biden, the likely states are going to be Oregon. It's a state that went to Hillary Clinton by about 12, and it's got a lot of rural voters, things like that, so that will go by a likely margin, I do believe. As well as New Mexico will go by a likely margin. This is a state that is overall trending blue, but Donald Trump could do better with Latinos, things like that, and he could bring it down to a likely margin, get some of those Gary Johnson voters. As well as Virginia. Virginia is a state that is also trending blue. You have the Nova counties, went by a likely margin barely in 2016. And while it is overall trending blue, Donald Trump could abate the fact that it's trending blue while, making it 5 to 6 points maybe. So that's all the likely Democrat states. Joe Biden is at 201 electoral votes from 25 worth of electoral votes from likely margins. Donald Trump is at 219. Now as for the lean margins, I do believe first Arizona could go by lean margin, went by lean margin last time, and if Donald Trump can really do very well, he can stop the trend of Arizona, at least for the time being. It went by about 3.5 in 2016. He could probably keep it by around 2 point something as a win, which would make it a lean margin. As well as the state of Florida, which does love incumbents generally, especially Republican incumbents. The polls have not been too good for him lately, but again, the polls only mean so much. Donald Trump could end up winning Florida by just above 2 maybe in a best case scenario. As well as the state of Wisconsin. If you look at Wisconsin, it's a state that's been trending a lot more than some of these other Rust Belt states, especially Michigan and Pennsylvania and Minnesota. You've got the rural counties, counties like Racine County, Kenosha County, those kind of counties. The WOW counties is where Donald Trump is doing very well, and I do believe that in a best case scenario, he could win Wisconsin by just above 2 points. And to get into the 270 mark is Nebraska's 2nd District, which I do believe is it's obviously very suburban, but I do believe Donald Trump could still end up winning it by a lead margin because it does have some of those exurban areas as well. And then for Joe Biden, the only lean margin state will be the state of Colorado. Joe Biden does have a weakness amongst the Latino voters. He's been gaining with them, but at least for now, he has a weakness with them. Hillary Clinton won it by 5.5 in 2016, and while Joe Biden will easily win the state, I do believe it could be, the upper tier lean margin states. So that's after the lean margin states, 270 for Donald Trump, 210 for Joe Biden there. Getting into these tilt margin states first, I do believe Donald Trump, would win Nevada by a tilt margin state. If you look, again, it's a very liberally skewed electorate that might not turn out for Joe Biden. The Latinos may not turn out for Joe Biden or become more supporters of Donald Trump. And it was very close in 2016, and, Joe Biden could easily lose this state. While I don't think he will in real life, in a best-case scenario, I do think it would flip. As well as Michigan, a best-case scenario, he could narrowly flip, but I think in a real scenario, Donald Trump is not going to be able to keep this state. But in a best-case scenario, he does pull it off the same way he pulled it off in 2016 and narrowly wins the state. The state of Pennsylvania is also a state I do believe would go by a tilt margin. The state of Pennsylvania is a state that has the western rural counties are, coming in heavily for Donald Trump. It's going to be about the Philadelphia turnout for Joe Biden. And in this scenario, you might not have that much high turnout. You may not have Joe Biden doing very well in some of these areas, and Donald Trump could still win this state, but it's going to be very close nonetheless. Also, New Hampshire could go by a tilt margin to Donald Trump. This is the state that was the closest in terms of the raw vote. It was only a couple thousand votes in 2016, and it is a very rural area that has been trending red overall. We'll see what the trend is, later on, the overall trend. But as for now, I do believe Donald Trump could win it, as well as Maine at large. Maine at large went by around 3 points in 2016, and if Donald Trump can keep his margins in Maine's 2nd district and gain in Maine's 1st district, he can win Maine at large, I do believe, as well. But I do believe Minnesota would still go to Joe Biden. If you look at Trump's riot response, it was really not very good. I think even people looking at it objectively from the Republican side can see that it was not very good response, and Minnesota got very upset at him. And so even in a best case scenario, I do believe Joe Biden would still be able to win it. If you Joe Biden, the trend would have to be 1.5 at least to the red column to get it into the red column, since Hillary Clinton won it by 1.5 points. And I do believe that is very difficult to do in any of these states, especially given the fact that you had the riot response here that was not very good. So overall, it is still a pretty easy victory for Donald Trump, gaining Nevada, New Hampshire, and Maine at large from his last election win. So that is the map, 318 to 220. Donald Trump will continue as president for a second term in the best case scenario. I'll have best case scenario for Joe Biden coming out tomorrow. So thank you all for watching this video. Please like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also join the Discord, vote in the mock of elections. We'll have those announced tonight when I'm releasing this. So again, guys, thank you all for watching this video, and I will see you guys later.